Welcome. Happy New Year. I'm Julie Podewitz, and welcome to the Not Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Today, I welcome Matt Reiners, a very good friend and colleague and industry expert and leader, co-founder of Eversound. And today, we're just going to chat, Matt. I'm trying to ease into the new year. And I'm sure you, as being a business owner, you've done a lot of hopefully family time, but toward the end of the year, beginning of the new year, business strategy and your quarterly planning and all of that. And that's great. But I just like to chill and kind of ease into the new year, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great with me.
All right. What I was wondering is, first of all, how was your holiday?
Holiday was great. Spent some time with my parents for a few days and then went and stayed with my in-laws for a few days. And as you can imagine, with a 18-month-old daughter running around, she still doesn't really understand or grasp the concept of Santa yet, but you could tell she was just rarely on the ground, forever being picked up, and she's just filled with so much love. So it was really good. And how about you? Did you have a nice holiday?
I did. Those are good times. They're always good times. You and I share surprisingly many things in common. And one is that we're both parents of a daughter, and my baby is 19, many good years. And yeah, we had a great holiday. Thanks for asking. Parents were in town, and we had record cold, or it felt like record cold in Nashville, like negative degrees. And just kind of, we all sort of just bundled inside, and my mom and stepdad were freezing from Southwest Florida. And then when they left, now we're having like 70 degrees. So go figure.
Jealous.
Yeah, it's kind of raining right now, and sort of like I said, ease back into the new year. So this is a kind of a good day to stay in the office and catch up with you. What I want to know, Matt, 2022. Best movie, favorite movie.
Yeah, favorite movie of 2022. So it actually came out late 2021, but for the record, I didn't see it until 2022.
That counts for me. That's when you saw it.
Yeah, and it would have to be Encanto, which was the Pixar film. And my Spotify can back this up because at the end of the year, it does the Spotify Unwrapped. And my top 5 songs were from Encanto.
One of them won the Grammy.
Oh, did it? I would imagine so. It was awesome. Yeah.
I did not see that movie. And my top Spotify was, Encanto was not in any of the top 5. But I remember watching, it was an Oscar, maybe it was the Oscar for best movie or best song. I think it was.
Okay.
All right. And it's like a real kind of a boppy dance tune.
I wouldn't say that. I'm trying to see what won the Grammy or won the awards.
Yeah, see what won, if it was nominated for sure. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, I think, right?
Yeah, he was involved. Yeah, feels like he is the modern day Midas. Whatever he touches is just turning to gold.
Yeah, he's a modern day master, no doubt. Genius. Well, while you're looking for that, I love movies and I love pop culture and all that. My husband and I, pre-pandemic, we had one of those passes where you can see unlimited number of movies, or I don't know if it's unlimited, but for us it is. I think it was up to 3 times a week for
actually going to the theater.
Cool. So we saw, and I have my entire adult life. Now, I've not always had the passes, but really make it a point to go to the movies. So really enjoy that. And the year 2019, we saw like 45 movies at the theater. Wow. And this year we saw 2 at the theater, and we had a big kitchen remodel and started a little thing called Grow Your Occupancy, and daughter off to college. So I did very little movie watching this year, which is unusual for me. So the 2 that I saw on the big screen were Maverick, Top Gun.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
A little a little trivia there. My very best friend, Amy, and her now husband, John, they've dated since high school. And the three of us went to see the first Top Gun together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at the Quo Vadis movie theater in Westland, Michigan. And then they happened to be visiting from Michigan, and Jim couldn't go. So I can't remember why, but anyway, the three of us went to see Maverick. And what I would have done for a picture of us back in 86, I think the movie came out. And then now, but of course, back when we were like in the 80s, we didn't take pictures. Like, it wasn't like, hey, we're going to the movies, let's take a picture.
I was born in 89, so I don't really know what was going on in the 80s.
And
so
you were not seeing Top Gun.
I was not seeing Top Gun.
You were not seeing Top Gun. So that was a blast. It was very fun. And sort of that big. Did you see Maverick?
I have not, no. I'll probably watch it on a plane on one of these upcoming trips, but
yeah,
I've heard good things about it.
It's one of those, it's Tom Cruise. So I kind of think he might think he is Maverick. I don't know, but he's just like a big, movie, big screen movie. And then for Ava's birthday, we went to see Elvis.
Okay. How was that?
That was good. And what is his name? Should get an Oscar nod for that.
Okay.
Austin Butler. He was amazing. And the movie wasn't the best movie ever, but his performance. But he's going to be knocked off the Oscar winning stage by Brendan Fraser, who will win for The Whale and should win for The Whale. That's on my C list. Yeah.
So you're giving him the win without even seeing the movie? Giving
him the win without seeing the movie. And there's something you might not know about me, Matt, is that I have this really bizarre ability to predict the Oscars and the winners.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like the big ones. So, I mean, the big ones, including screenplay, adapted screenplay. And 1 year I got 100% right on everything, even editing. But the big ones like movie and best actor, actress, and supporting and music, I'm usually about 90%. My buddy John, our buddy John, and hey John, if you're listening to this, I'm going to send it over to you. He's remains amazed at my ability to do this, and it's it doesn't translate to anything else except predicting the Oscars.
Well, now we just need to figure out a place for you to bet on picking the winners here. I mean,
I know. I've been a little off, I have to say, off my game the last couple years, because I used to make it a point of seeing every single movie that was nominated, even if it was not nominated for Best Picture, but it was nominated for Best Supporting Actress or something. I would see that.
Got it. Well, you're also not going and seeing 40 movies per year in the theaters. So, I mean, I feel like that has to, because I imagine you're seeing the majority of the winners, right?
I'd make it a point to the ones that are nominated. We won't go down that rabbit trail. The last couple of years have been real bummer for me as far as really? But that is, so those are the movies. And did you find out which in Encanto, what song or?
Yeah, best original song for, I'm going to butcher the name, for Dos Oruguitas. I don't know if that made my top 5. So I'll have to go and look at that and see which song that was.
Totally.
I would have thought of been what about Bruno, or We Don't Talk About Bruno, which was the one that was going viral for a while.
That's the one. So that one didn't win?
No, it looks like it was a different ones.
What about book? Do you read books, Audible books, podcasts? What else is top of mind?
I do read books. Usually a lot of picture books to my daughter at night, but those count, right? Reading's reading.
Totally.
No, there's, I always try to incorporate new books, and I also find just a lot of value in going back and rereading books that I like and enjoy. And I would say I've got 3 that kind of stick out to me over this past year. One is The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and another gentleman, David. I'm blanking on his last name, but that whole idea is around helping others to achieve their goals, and then just being open to receiving. And, you can never go wrong with that philosophy is kind of what they talk about. And, I really try to incorporate that into my life. I'm like, have even been called out by people being like, why are you being so nice to me and like trying to help me so much? Like, I don't understand. Like, this is weird. I'm like, no, like, as long as I can help you, right? Like, if I can help you hit some of your goals, it's not like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, but it's more of like, hey, if I can help you be successful and create this relationship and put you in a position to win, of course, there's going to be opportunities for us to collaborate or do things together in the future. And, call it karma, call it good nature, call it whatever you want. But that's a big book that I was like, I can power through it in a day. Another book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Another name I'm going to butcher. I always love reading that book when I find myself in just like a weird state or kind of just like in a weird thought pattern, just because, I've been doing the startup thing now with my co-founder, Jake, for 10 plus years.
Wow.
And, there's definitely parts during that where you kind of feel stuck. You're not really sure what the next step is. And this book of The Alchemist is just about this kid who's on a journey based on a dream. And, he just has such confidence in the path and doesn't take for granted the path to get there. And like, I always try to reflect on that, where, I think when people think of journey, it's always the end point that they're looking towards. And it just helps to remind me that it's the journey that's the most important part. And then it was funny because not almost, but out of sheer coincidence, the book I read following that, or listened to the Audible, was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey,
What'd you think of that one?
I thought it was good. And I thought it was weird because he kind of embodied the alchemist. Like, he would have these dreams, he would drop everything and go and like act on these. And I think we all, of course, all know who Matthew McConaughey is, but it was just interesting to read The Alchemist and then go read Green Lights for the first time, or listen to it more so. And just being like, wow, he is the living embodiment of like what that book was about. So that was pretty cool. How about you? Any clear book winners? Do you read?
I do read a lot. I read a lot, and I listen a lot. So I think at any given time, I'm always listening to something, and I'm always reading something. And I try to make them different genres so I don't get mixed up. And I mix up just fun, brainless kind of. I don't want to say brainless, but anytime anyone reads or writes a book, kudos. But sometimes it's like fun reading, or I love historical fiction. I like fiction a lot. I like nonfiction. I love biographies, autobiographies, and I typically will do a top 10 list of both. And I'm just a little behind. But I remember last year, my top 5 Audible books, like 3 of them were autobiographies, and one comes to mind. It's now I'm going to forget the name, but it's David Grohl, Foo Fighters.
Yeah, of course.
He did. His memoir is fantastic if you ever want to listen. And he is an incredible person, I think. And you're talking about a journey. And I was going to ask you who you admire, like just somebody that you admire. And for whatever reason, I really admire David Grohl. I love his just his vibe, and he just loves to play with anybody. He loves what he does. He loves music, and he just wants to jam out. I saw a documentary, or maybe it was a series. David Grohl's like jamming out with Rick Springfield, and he's like crazy good. And he meets his idols. He meets Paul McCartney. He's also major, like, for me. And he's like a kid. And then he also lets kids play in his concerts, like people from the audience. Have you ever seen that? There's some like 11-year-old who raises him, like, I know how to play drums, or I know how to, and he brings them on stage. And I love stuff like that. I love him.
I saw a video, I think yesterday, about Dave Grohl, and because like their Foo Fighters drummer unfortunately passed away, and they brought up the guy's son who played drums with them, which was just like super powerful and super moving. And
I saw that.
And it's wild that Dave Grohl was in Nirvana. So it's just kind of crazy.
Isn't it though? Isn't it? I mean, speaking of your childhood, that was an album that came out when you were a kid. And it will never,
like 3 to 4 years old, probably
Yep.
right around there.
Yeah, and that whole grunge thing or whatever. I know the musicians don't like that. I don't think they like that term, but everything is has cycles, right? Or it's speaking of a journey, right? And in business and in life, where okay, the music in the 80s, then it was, or the disco era of the 70s, and then there was this huge shift from that, and so this whole kind of Pearl Jam,
Yeah. Yep.
Nirvana, to that kind of grunge or alternative rock or whatever you call it. That was a great album. A great album. This year, what were you listening to? Or what do you like to listen to?
Yeah, so it really depends on what I'm doing. So if I'm working, I'll typically have some sort of like, and I find all of these on YouTube. It's just like 60-minute at least to a few hours, just like there's like movie scores that I listen to, or like there's like most recently I was listening to like Harry Potter's Christmas classical suite, or like Game of Thrones. So I'll listen to like some of the soundtracks just because I find they're great for focus, and they don't have the lyrics. It just helps me to like better concentrate. So I find myself listening to a lot of that. And then also, but like if I'm at the gym or if I'm working out, I'm usually listening to rap or hip hop, or something that just gets my bones going a little bit more. But it's so interesting because I have this other side that's just like really into show tunes, which I and maybe it's because my mom made me watch them all when I was growing up, but like, I still listen to the Hamilton soundtrack quite frequently, and like we'll run to that. I'll also listen to like the Greatest Showman soundtrack, which I think has like 4 to 5 absolute bangers. So, it depends on the time of day and what day you find me, but like I could be listening to all of the above. How about you?
Ooh, and show tunes, I'm a huge theater
Yeah.
fan, and I love music too. And so show tunes, it kind of cracks me up because I don't think of, they are The Greatest Showman and Hamilton, those are show tunes. But when you said show tunes, my mind goes to, like
Guys and
the
Dolls.
chorus line, Guys and Dolls,
Okay.
and things like that. I love them. I love them all, though. I love them all. Music, music, music. I agree. I really do. It depends on my mood or what I'm doing. I like pop music, and I like what's
Yeah.
happening in the now. But I also I love easy listening from the 70s. Like Jim teases me, says that's a gold, or they used to be called AM, AM gold or something. I love that. But I also love what's going on now, for the most part. And I love one of my Spotify top 5s is Harry Styles. I like just really good pop music. And some dance fun stuff, Lizzo, her big party, her big jam this 2022. And I love, I rock. Like when you jam out to rap, then I'm jamming out more to like rock music from,
Got it.
from yesterday. Who else I really think is cool, speaking of rock, is Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang.
Okay. Yeah.
He has a band called Mammoth, and they are tremendous and pretty heavy rock. And rock isn't, it used to be dominant. Rock was on, it was when like John Bon Jovi and Journey, and that was in the top 40, and Aerosmith and Van Halen, and now it's not so much, but
yeah, that's cool. When you used to have hair to be a part of it, so it was a little discriminatory in that sense.
So that, yes. I was going to ask you about rap. So who's your favorite, or who's like a great rap musician?
Yeah, so I think it's funny because when I think of the rap that's being released today, there's a few people that I like, but for the most part, I just don't think it's that good. But I think of some of my favorite artists, and like it's always funny because I like still reflect and still like listen to some of those songs. I was listening to like, pre-JV basketball games and like
Oh,
pre-varsity
yeah,
basketball games. So like
totally.
Eminem is definitely up there, Nas, Jay-Z, Drake. I hit all the standard basic ones, but I would say like now there's this guy called NF, which I really like. And it was funny because after I like grew to like him, I noticed that he was signed by a Christian label, and I guess he's a Christian rapper, and I had no idea, but he's like one of my favorites. So I like love listening to that. And I'm just trying to see what else is on my list here of like top songs, but those are definitely some of the ones that like come to the top of what I'm thinking about. And like, just listen to that and just get pumped up and amped up and pretend like I'm about to go
Okay.
play basketball.
What reminds you of, like you talked about pre-JV basketball or
Yeah,
what?
so when I think of music in that time, I mean, I think of definitely like the middle school dances,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to like better think through what, like I remember like TLC Waterfalls. I think of
Okay.
like Destiny's Child.
Okay. And
I think of some of those songs, and then
so
like,
what year are we talking, Matt? Give me a year.
so I graduated in high school in 2007. So eighth grade would have been 2002.
So the boy band thing of 2000, the Backstreet Boys, In Sync. I mean, that was huge at the turn of the 2000s, late 90s.
I think the biggest compliment I've ever gotten in my life was in sixth grade, where someone had told me that they thought I was going to be the next Backstreet Boy. So I was like, I mean, I peaked in sixth grade. It's kind of all been downhill since then. Yeah, that was huge. Britney Spears and
Right.
Sync, like all that, the
Uh-huh.
pop stars and stuff was right around then.
That's right. Because Backstreet Boys were first, right? And then In Sync, if I recall, test my trivia on this one. Their debut album, it was like 2001, and it was the one with the puppets, I think, and it was like the fastest selling album. It sold 1 million copies in a week or whatever.
Oh, I bet.
Is that
Yeah. I think
right?
that was like Bye 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 when they were acting like that. Yeah. I
I think
feel like I
so.
remember doing that dance back in the day.
I would like to see that. Who inspires you? Talk to me about, you talked about some books and how some of those books really inspire you. Uh, who else when you think of,
Are we saying like people in our family, or just like celebrities, or just kind of anybody or anybody?
yeah, like just, yeah, maybe anybody and anybody.
Anybody and everybody. So my wife,
What?
of course, she's the real MVP in this whole picture. She is kick ass. She works full time, is a mom, also getting her MBA right now. So
Wow.
she is my better half. I married up. You
And
can tell
that's
her that.
Bailey, right?
And that is Bailey, yeah.
Bailey.
And so she inspires me. Of course, my daughter inspires me. Outside of them, of course, my parents, but I think of some of the people, I'll think of like the senior living industry. So apart from you, Julie, because I can't say you inspire me with you being on the call with me,
Yeah,
but I think,
that's sort of, yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
that's just like brown nosing.
yeah, that's like
Um,
fishing.
but I would say our mutual friend Christy Van Westerhusen from Legend inspires me. I think we've all kind of embraced this mentality that it's okay to be vulnerable and like sharing stuff, especially like on LinkedIn and some of the social channels. So it's just like, and I just think she does an awesome job, putting together her team, shouting them out, and kind of giving them the public recognition that I think at times people need and people desire. So I think she definitely inspires me. I would also say in this space, someone that inspires me is some of the other tech founders. So I think of George from Safely You, Kyle from Rendeavor, who have all become really good friends, Nate from Dash Media. I think there's a few people out there. It's just like this, we're all relatively around the same age too, and can kind of are going through some of the same pains and some of the same wins. So it's been great to kind of connect with people from that side. And then I have to shout out I'm always inspired by the activity directors in these communities. I think some of the times, unfortunately they're lower on the totem pole, but like what they do and just some of the stories that you hear and like just the happiness that they're able to bring, they're always super inspirational. And then, yeah, I mean, I think when I think of inspiration, it's more of like moments where I see people doing certain things and like how they've either reacted in the moment or have interacted with others. And it's just like, that kind of stays with me more just because I know it's not black and white with a lot of these people. Some people have got good and bad in them and there's like this gray almost, but like, it's really these moments that I find super inspiring and just like, reconfirm my sense of belief in humans. And like, even an example in the last 24 hours, like the crazy thing happened in that football game last night where the guy, craziness happened. Someone found his GoFundMe page for he did like a toy drive. His goal last year was like $2,500. I went to bed last night. It was at 25K.
Nice.
I just looked like half hour ago, it was up to 4 million. And it's just like strangers from all across the country. And it's
gosh, I love that. The everyday, without sounding kind of corny, but truly the everyday heroes. And I love one of the people I admire from a celebrity is during COVID, John, oh gosh, is it Krasinski from The Office?
Yeah,
started a podcast called Some Good News.
Mm-hmm.
And it went viral. It was really well done. And he was, he just dressed up like a newscaster and it was all good news because, everyone's really down and depressed. And so that has stuck, this Some Good News, and kids would do their things. And so Some Good News is still, he's not doing it, but it's still people post things under that. Mm-hmm. And like the other day saw two gentlemen, it was a video, of course, now almost everything's captured, right? If you've got a phone and you see something,
it's crazy, yeah.
And it was two young guys who heard, or on social media that someone's mother was in Buffalo, New York, was stranded in her home, no electricity, pipes had burst, so no water, no, personal, no restrooms, no food, mm-hmm. Elderly lady who had a lot of challenges with ambulation, and and this is a tragedy. Many people died. Yeah. And these two guys went to the house, contacted her and were shoveling to try to get, because this is like massive snowdrifts, to help her to safety and then bring her home. And I just get goosebumps I agree with you, man. I mean, the goodness, the goodness it always does win. And it is incredibly inspiring. And I get inspired every day, and I can get down just like everybody else. I can get discouraged. Yeah. And all I need to do is jump on a good news thing or think about people like you mentioned who inspire by being who they are, and who inspires me is people who, I think to some, it's like people who are led by good, people who are led by, I want to do the good for others. Like you mentioned before, it's like, just do good, save. I can't watch the Save Dogs video. I like the endings. I can't see the beginnings, but people who do everyday goodness, right. Everyday goodness. Mm-hmm. And we're so lucky to work in senior living, right? Because they're every day, hundreds and thousands of people doing everyday good that is not posted, on social media. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so there's a lot to be inspired by, right? Is just like if you want to be down, you can read the news. Well, there's a lot to be inspired by too. I think it's just a choice.
I think happiness, right? It's a choice. Like you can dread on the negative, you can dread on the positive. I've even struggled with this, like you mentioned with you, I get depressed, I get anxious, I go through all those, but when you find the things to be grateful for and stop comparing up, I always find that's comparison is the thief of joy, and it's never a good thing to practice. I mean, you can use it as inspirational, as motivation, but it's also something that's just setting you up for failure.
Totally. Well, Matt, little minor trivia. So the Grow Your Occupancy business is just about 1 year old. I started the beginning of last year, and I thought, oh, I think I want to do a podcast. And you were so kind to volunteer to be my very first guest, my very first podcast. And so now we're ringing in 2023, and you're my very first 2023 podcast guest on the Not True Crime podcast version of Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Any last words or thoughts for 2023? I don't know. Do you do New Year's resolutions?
I don't do New Year's resolutions. I typically do goals every month and then try and set like a word or an intention for that, just because I found, it's tough to make a goal for the entire year. So I'll try to change it every month and kind of give myself a fresh slate. So for me is to not eat any sour cream and onion, Lay's, potato chips. It's bad. Like I see a bag like over this past break. Oh, I see the bag and my mouth starts watering.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to be more intentional, working out 6 days per week, just because, I've deprioritized that being a new dad. And like, I've just learned how much that helps my own well-being, own energy levels. Like went to the gym this morning, was great. I've been pretty consistent with that the last couple of months, but just trying to make sure I'm maintaining that. And then I think for, when I think of the word or my intention for this, I think of that more as a quarterly basis, but my word is intention. So, really when I think of that in my own life, like, do I want to go and eat like crap? Or like, what's the intention behind that? Just to, eat out some of the anxiety that I'm having. What if I did something else? So I'm trying to like keep that top of mind, but I've always failed at all my New Year's resolutions. So I try to think about it a little bit differently, but
there's a stat like 99% or 98% of resolutions go unresolved or unfulfilled because because change is so hard, A, and B, people set these like, I'm going to cut all white foods out of my diet and I'm going to run, 17 miles a day. We, for holiday kind of fun girls evening in, I bought this little kit. It's called My Intention. And it's a little bracelet making kit. It has a little hammer. It's one of those bracelets that are sort of a band and with a round sort of coin. And you take a hammer and these letters and you pound out your word. And so it's like, what's your word? And then it has some questions to kind of prompt thought. And my word is dream. So that's my word, dream. And I have other ones too, but dream. And also then for 2023, I always have the same as you: business goals, sales goals, revenue goals, all that. Growing the team. I love that. That's the best fun part, is working with other people and helping them dream. But then really to, I know it's sounds cliche, but to take more time not working. So, and it's okay to take time and not work.
And I think if I had any major learning in 2022, it was that. So, I took my first week off since the beginning of 2020. So almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And like, this was my first time in 10 years not bringing my laptop somewhere. And like, I felt naked. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was great. And, cause I was definitely burnt out before I went. I just noticed like my interactions with my teammates or just other people, just like wasn't my typical happy go cheery self. And like, I found that to help reset me. So now I'm trying to get something on the calendar, at least a week off every 6 months or so, just to give me something to look forward to and understand and, the importance of that, because I think, we have this hustle culture mentality. I think Gary Vaynerchuk's in all of our ears at times. And, which the rest is just as important as the grinding, and will help to replenish some of that battery.
That's a great goal. I'm going to follow you, Matt, like I always do. You are also an inspiration. Happy 2023. Thank you
Happy
for being a
2023.
guest today and for just chatting with me and helping me ease into the new year. All right.
You as
So
well. Thank you so much for having me.
Matt Reiners, Eversound, and Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks again for listening. Anything we mentioned that of importance, there will be a link here in the notes, especially to Eversound's website. You can learn more about what he and his phenomenal team do for thousands and thousands and thousands of people every single day. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much, Julie.